Hi YouTube, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Okay, so we are not in the shop today. Today we are in the kitchen. It's a processing day today. So last week Vance and I were able to fill our mule deer tags. He did an excellent job, and we got into some deer. He shot his, and then I figured, you know what, hey, we're here. We had another one coming. I had a tag too, so I went ahead and dropped one. And so we filled both of our tags the same day, loaded them both up on the game cart, packed them back to the truck, brought them home, hung them up in the meat locker. They've been in there since today's Thursday, so it was last Wednesday. I usually like to hang things for a week, maybe 10 days, somewhere around there. I just find that kind of helps with you know, the meat will be more tender and you know, an awful lot easier to cook, because I'm honestly not that great a cook, so I need all the help that I can get. So anyway, so today we get to go ahead and work these deer up. He's out in the shop skinning his out in the meat locker right now, and yeah, so it's going to be a really exciting day. We've got here in about another hour or so, we have got lunch coming up, and that's a cottontail from I think late last season, in the little bitty Stand Sport 2-quart Dutch oven. Awesome little Dutch oven for 1 or 2 people. Anyway, so today what we're going to do is a cooking video, okay? Now, and you might think that that's kind of odd, seeing as how I just told you how I'm not that great of a cook, right? Well, this is one of those deals that you can be not a great cook, and you rely on the magic of the black pot to make sure that it turns out okay. And the black pot that we're talking about is that pot right there, which you'll get to see it here pretty soon. That is my great-grandmother's Dutch oven. I can't remember you know, who the maker of it was. I looked it up one time, but it's old. So I got to turn the heat up on it. I had it pre-warming so that we could do this a little bit faster. Okay, so what we've got today is I am doing neck roasts. Let me check, make sure you can see that. Yeah. Okay, so this is actually kind of low on the neck. Okay, so the one that I got was a yearling doe, and so she didn't have, I mean, does don't typically have, you know, really big necks like bucks do, but this was a young doe also, so her entire neck roast was, you know, that piece of meat right there. So imagine that, you know, wrapped around a vertebrae, and that's pretty much what her neck is. That's honestly not enough for 3 people, because this is going to be like a really low and slow type of cook deal, so it will cook down quite a bit. The nice thing about, so this cut of meat is from the neck to about middle of where the shoulder blade sits, so right up in here or so, you know, on the deer. This is one of those cuts of meat that you're starting to kind of get into backstrap, which is right up in here, but you've still got an awful lot of connective tissue. You know, I mean, just think about it, in between your shoulder blades, how much, you know, you use those muscles. So you can either, you know, try to cut this piece of backstrap out, and then, you know, try to get as much of this connective tissue as you can out to like grind it for burger. Or you can just take advantage of the fact that it has that connective tissue and some fat in it, and that's going to make it more flavorful. So what we're going to do is we are going to rinse that hand off so I don't get stuff all over. Slap your mama seasoning, okay? I mean, I would not condone slapping your mama unless you you know, want to visit the graveyard a little bit earlier. But this is kind of like Creole seasoning, only a little bit hotter. So we are gonna season this stuff up really good. One of the other ones that I really like to do this sort of deal with is Kent Rollins Red River Ranch seasoning. And a while back he had a special on that stuff, and I bought like a 5-pound sack of it. And that stuff is tasty, let me tell you. Okay. And this is kind of good because that thing right there, it's, you know, it's getting a little bit on the old side, so we'll use a whole bunch of it to kind of help use it up. All right, so now what we've got, yep, some here. And we have got, oh, it got a little bit too hot. See, that's half of it. There's the new cat. Allison decided that we didn't have enough craziness in our life, and so she got a cat from the pet store in the mall. Kind of get those in there and let them start browning up. And we got to wash the old hands again. While that's browning, we can take a look at Boo here. Hey, Boo. Yep, that is Boo. She has got blue eyes. They say that she is like Siamese and tabby cat. Oh, and I guess she wants to come see y'all. She's been, I mean, she's a kitten, and we haven't got her declawed. And boy, let me tell you, she knows how to use them claws already. All right, get down, Boo. Get down. Get down. Get down. Oh, and there's Wyatt. And Claire. And we got Doc also. You know, it's kind of surprising. I mean, the dogs haven't really warmed up to her. Right now, I think they mostly tolerate her, which is okay as long as there's not fights going on in the house. She does like to play with their tails, though. I mean, sometimes she'll like bear hug their tails, and they'll still be wagging them, and she's, you know, kind of going back and forth. All right, so we got our neck roast here in browning up in some bacon grease. You guys save bacon grease, right, in that jar right there. That's for, you know, like oh, not bacon grease, but like sausage grease, or, you know, oil left over from when you fry something. But that right there is the magic ingredient, bacon grease. This like I said, this recipe is pretty freaking awesome because, I mean, if a guy like me with my limited cooking skills, if I can pull this off fairly regularly, I mean, every once in a while I screw it up, usually by not cooking it long enough. But the rest of the time, like I said, that magic pot right there, it just, all I really have to do is kind of throw everything at it, and everything will, hey, see that? See how she like jumps up? No, you got to get down. No, down. Down. Boy, let me tell you, the bigger she gets, the worse that gets. Yeah, so pretty much we just brown it up, and then put the lid on, and then let it simmer for, oh, well, it's noon now. Allison will get home about 6 o'clock-ish or so. You know, she works out of the house still. She's got her own career, and you know, I work here, well, you know, my shop, which is about 50 yards that way. So I work from home, so I end up doing an awful lot of cooking, which really isn't the greatest thing in the world because she's a whole lot better cook than I am. And of course, this pot, it, you know, it does the whole, at one point it was overheated pretty bad, so the bottom is kind of bowl shaped, so it'll sit there and spin on a glass top stove. So we got another couple minutes to brown this side, and then yeah, I guess we can talk about the upcoming test here. So like I said, I've got to work this meat up, and so I'm going to do a continuation of the Open L edge test series, where I took three of these Open L knives and sharpened them with a 325 grit diamond stone, a 6,000 grit water stone, and then a 6,000 grit water stone that I stropped on my razor strop, so with green chromium oxide, excuse me, and then linen and leather. So it's got a really, I mean, honestly, I would pick that knife up and shave my face with it if I needed to. And so we're going to put all three of those edges to work, breaking down these shoulders and getting them ready for the grinder. I've also got a boning knife, or two boning knives, one with that 6,000 grit edge, one with a 325, and then a chef's knife with the 6,000 grit edge, and one with the 325, and then one with a 325 that's been stropped. So as soon as I get done with this video, why then that's the next video to do, and it's going to be pretty interesting, you know, because that whole Open L series, you know, where we cut rope, we cut cardboard, we cut leather, you know, we cut all that kind of stuff, you know, comparing those different edges. And you know, I mean, a big thing that I do is work up, you know, I mean, I'm a hunter, so I skin, I, you know, dress out animals, I, you know, cut them up for, you know, the freezer, and then, like I said, I kind of muddle my way through the cooking portion. And, you know, all of that stuff requires the use of a knife, and so it's really interesting to see, you know, the different edge finishes and, you know, where they work best, you know, as far as performance. I mean, it's all still a knife, and if the knife is sharp, it will cut, but there are certain advantages to different type of edges in different applications. And, you know, if you can match those together, why then, you know, it makes your work that much easier. All right, so we should be just about done browning. Oh, yeah. Yep, okay. I mean, we could probably brown a little bit more, but I don't really want to subject y'all to sitting here and just watching meat brown. Okay, so the guy that taught me this recipe, it was actually on shank meat. Okay, so you know, this lower portion, you know, from the elbow to the ankle, this portion has got an awful lot of tendons in it, and so it's even worse than the neck meat. So you can sit there and work on this thing for a half an hour to get, you know, maybe, you know, 2 or 3 burgers worth of hamburger, or you can do this style of recipe right here. Now, the guy that taught me this recipe, his name's Bill Bruner. Awesome dude, absolutely awesome. One of the best elk hunters that I've ever met. It'd be a close competition between him and his dad, Chuck. Anyways, he's found out that if you took a couple of shanks, now they didn't brown them so much, they just threw them in a crock pot with a cup of water, I mean, take them off the bone, with a cup of water and a cup of wine, and you put them in that crock pot the night before you wanted lunch the next day. So you put them in that crock pot on low, cup of water, cup of wine, maybe a half an onion or something, and then just let them sit all night long and for half a day the next day. In the morning time, if you wanted, toss in some vegetables or whatever, and then by lunchtime, boy, that shank, it went from being a tough, you know, pretty nasty piece of meat to all that connective tissue turned into basically flavoring, you know, like kind of like Jello almost. And boy, it's really good. So we're kind of after the same deal here, only a little bit quicker. All right, so I don't have a bottle of wine open, but everybody's got the you know, that portion of your liquor shelf where you got mistakes, you know, where you bought stuff and you're like, oh gosh, I just do not want to drink that. Well, you don't want to pour it out. So this was honestly a mistake. It says Applejack, so I thought that it was the, you know, for basically apple wine that had been freeze distilled, and it's not. This is just a normal heat distilled type of alcohol. So we're just going to pour some of this in there. About that much maybe. And that'll help kind of get rid of that bottle there. And then we'll lift it up so it gets up underneath there. Lift it up so it gets up underneath there. And then we'll, now this is, this style of Dutch oven has got these little, whatever you call them, these are auto basters. Okay, so as that steam rises up out of the pot and it hits the bottom side of the lid, it'll collect and then it'll drip off each one of these little metal things right here. And it'll, you know, continuously baste whatever's in the Dutch oven. And it works really good. So we put that on there, we turn the heat down to low, and there it will sit. I'll go ahead and bring you back over here. I'll let it sit there all day long, well, for the next 6.5 hours or so until Allison gets home and gets ready for dinner. And then I'll probably go ahead and shoot a video right before, you know, we tear into it, or I might shoot another quick one, and now that I know how to stitch them together, of tossing in some potatoes and some carrots from the garden and maybe an onion, and I think we've got some celery and some garlic, whatever else. You know, toss all that in there here in about 5 hours or so that it can cook for, oh, hour and a half, you know, for the veggies, and kind of let them get all nice and tenderized, and maybe add some more slap your mama in there, and then it ought to be about good. I mean, so like I said, this is about my favorite recipe. You know, I do pretty much the same thing for chickens, for rabbits, for for most, I mean, pretty much anything. I mean, I'm kind of a, like I said, I'm not really that great of a cook, so I got a couple of different methods that seem to work pretty well most of the time, and that's what I roll with. So I'm going to shut you guys off now, and I will see you again here in about, like I said, in about 5 hours or so. Okay, see you then. Hi YouTube, this is, actually I don't have to go through all that because this is a continuation of the first video. Okay, so we're still cooking that mule deer neck roast in my my great-grandmother's Dutch oven. Can't remember if I mentioned that it was my great-grandmother's, not my grandmother's Dutch oven in the first part of the video. So now it's been roughly 5 hours since we've had that neck roast in there. Probably ought to want to see it, huh? And it is in there toasting away. We probably just fogged up the screen, but it's doing mighty good. So now we need some veggies, and since we got the knives out and everything, we're going to do like a double part of this. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do some edge testing on this right quick, and then I'll probably end up cutting this part out and making it its own video also. Not really sure how I'm going to do that, but anyway, so we have got some carrots fresh from the garden. We've got a chunk of those giant elephant garlic, some onions, some celery, and some potatoes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get you where you're pointed towards the cutting board. There we go. Okay, so we're going to make just a couple of cuts with each one of these open L knives. Remember, one of them's at 325 grit, one's at 6,000 grit, and one's at 30,000 grit. Then, once we make just a couple of cuts with each, instead of having to cut all this up with those pocket knives, I've got kind of the same deal going on with these knives over here. This one's a 325 grit edge, this one's a 6,000, and this one is a 6,000 that's been stropped on chromium oxide, and then linen and leather. Basically my straight razor shaving strop. And so it's pretty much a mirror finish on the edge on that one. Okay, so let's start off with the onion here. Now, well, we might actually do the whole onion with this because I usually just kind of chunk them up pretty good. I don't really think that we're going to have much of a difference with this, but we'll see. Okay, so we need to make 3 cuts here. So if we do a slice here, yeah, a straight push cut, I'm not really telling much of a difference. Yeah, these are just kind of large, well, thick bladed pocket knives to be cutting onions up with. So I really couldn't tell the difference in between those 3. So now we'll just cut a little bit with each one. So this is the 325 grit edge. Okay, that felt pretty good. Onions really isn't much of a test of an edge, even an edge finish. You know, I can feel a slight amount of difference in between the 325 all the way up to the polished edge. The polished edge, I think, if you were to put it right next to the 325, since that is, you know, a push cut and not really any slicing action going on there, you can tell a little bit of the difference. Okay, so now we've got some celery. So this is our 325 grit edge. A push cut, yeah, no big difference. Slicing cut, yeah, okay. That goes in for the compost. 6,000 grit edge. That push cut is quite a bit smoother with that 6,000 grit. And we still have a little bit of slicing aggression on celery. Now the polished edge. That one right there, you can feel that the push cut is going good, but the thickness of the blade, I don't know if you can hear that, but you start hearing a cut. And then pretty much what you're hearing is the rest of the celery splitting out, okay? And that happens quite a bit. I mean, if you've got, especially when we get to the carrots, you'll notice that. So let's do, well, we could do 1 stalk with each grit. So this is a 325. Now, you hear that you're not getting near as much of that splitting noise. Hear that? Heck, even with my ears I can hear that. Okay? There's not, this is a pretty thinly ground knife, so you're not getting near as much splitting action. And the edge and the blade is pretty much cutting it straight to the board. There's not, you're not cutting and then splitting the rest of the material out. Okay, so here's our 6,000 grit edge. About the same deal. I'm not too sure that, I mean, it is pushing a little bit easier with a little bit less drag on each cut, but then again it's not as aggressive. And here's our polished edge. Now this is a thicker blade. Typically when I make Damascus blades, I don't grind them as thin as a homogeneous steel blade. And so you can hear more of that splitting action. And I'm really not too sure that I can tell that much of a difference in the edge aggression between that one and the 6,000 grit. Okay, so now we got the garlic. Yeah, let's just do these with the chef's knives. Okay, so let's clean the tips of them off there. That goes into the compost. You know, I really can't feel much of anything. It's not really giving me much of resistance at all. Now this one you can tell it's a much thicker blade. There, I swear I can tell a little bit of a difference. Not much, but a little bit of one. Oh, and that one, I'm not sure if I'm feeling the difference or if I'm hearing it. Yeah, I couldn't say what my favorite edge is there either for garlic. But, you know, just a little bit ago, I shot a video using these 3 edge finishes blocking up steaks out of that mule deer. And let me tell you, that polished edge really surprised me. Okay, so now potatoes, I like to, I mean, since this is more of kind of like a hearty roast type of deal, I don't like to chop them up quite as small. So, you know, about like this and then halves again. Okay. This one I can tell that it's a thicker blade. And that's about it on potatoes. I mean, really, you're not really cutting a whole lot with the potatoes. You're just kind of, I mean, it doesn't take much of a knife or an edge to cut tomatoes, or potatoes. Yeah, no real big difference there either. That one you can definitely tell on that cut where I was cutting through a whole half a potato at once that the blade is thicker and that it's, you know, there's just much more material to have to push through the cut. Okay, now on the carrots here, we're definitely going to see the whole splitting action thing. Okay, so oh, and of course now it's going to make a liar out of me. And we've got meat rabbits now, and so they get the ends and the peelings and stuff. It's kind of wild. I figured we would have. Now see, on this one, I'm not feeling any. The thicker one, you could feel it, that you were cutting and then splitting out the bottom of the carrot. Okay, so we've got, let's see, we'll put those with, let's do it like that. Okay, so the 325 grit edge, you know, I should be leaving these bigger. I mean, this is a roast, by the way. Now see, that I heard more of a splitting action, probably because, like I said, this 6,000 grit edge, it doesn't have as many teeth. So instead of, you know, doing a slice, you're having to do a push with more force. Which means that by the time you make it through the carrot, you're going to hit the board harder. This one's kind of the same deal. I get to right there, and the blade's thick enough that it's making me push a little bit harder, and so I'm slamming the edge into the board. But if I try slicing, it takes the whole length of the blade to make a cut. Okay. Gotta taste test that. And of course now I need to talk in my mouth's full. Okay, so we got some veggies going on here. Grab grab a spoon so we can kind of turn that over. This is the one thing that I don't like about this old pot, and that's, you know, that bottom is kind of bowl shaped, and so it likes to spin on you. Now see, you can really tell that all that connective tissue in there, well, maybe not all of it, but we're getting pretty close. I mean, we've still got about another hour and a half worth of cooking before we're done with this. So by that time, the remainder of this will be simmered down. So now let's toss our veggies in there. Kind of stir it around a little bit here. Sorry, y'all are right up close. Like I said, I gotta hold that pot from spinning while I'm stirring. So we'll put all that in there. Grab our lid, put it up in, and I think we're gonna adjust the heat and bring it up just a little bit. Maybe a little bit more, because we gotta heat all them veggies up, you know, to the same temperature as the inside of the pot before they can even start cooking. So about another hour and a half. Another hour and a half, I'll go ahead and fire up the camera again, let y'all see it, and then of course we'll have dinner. Now I won't show that on camera because nobody likes to sit and watch somebody eat dinner. But anyway, so yeah, I will see you guys here again in about another hour and a half. Talk to you then. All right, YouTube, it's been, I misjudged it. I got the veggies in there about 5 o'clock or so, and it's a 7:15 now. So our veggies are probably going to be a little on the soft side, but here we go. Look at that. So let's go ahead and grab me a little bit here. There's a little bit of neck roast, a couple of potatoes, maybe a little bit more, and then get down and get the juice. One thing about wild game meat is that it dries out like sometimes as you are watching it. Look at there. I mean, like, sometimes I swear the stuff will, you can watch it dry out on the plate. But look at that, nice and tender. I mean, it fell off for the rest of it. Oh yeah, that's some good stuff there. Now, all of that back in here. Remember, all of that fat and sinew and all that kind of stuff, it melted away, or it turned into the juice, one of the two. About the only thing you'll have left is these really big chunks of sinew, but you can eat around that well enough. I tell you, you know, for me being not a very good cook, I have eaten a lot worse than this. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and let y'all go, and we're going to dish this up and have dinner, and then go about the evening. So again, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can find me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Hope y'all enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time.